Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Catherine Molina. More than 100 years ago, the first African-American Greek organization was founded. Since then, many more have been established and 9 of them formed the National Pan-Hellenic Council. Some refer to them as the Divine Nine. Each of these fraternities and sororities is rich in tradition. Originally launched on historically black college campuses, these organizations have been great at supporting members academically and socially, and at strengthening social bonds among black students. One of the great traditions that was started by the African American collegiate organizations in the early 1920s is a synchronized dance called strolling. Strolling has spread among the NPHC, National Association of Latino Fraternal Organizations, and other multicultural Greek organizations. Each organization has unique moves that other groups cannot copy. We asked the Divine Nine members what the organization means to them.
It means family, it means sisterhood, service, scholarship. I'm the oldest daughter of 3. I don't have any sisters, so coming into this, I came open-minded, I came family-oriented, and meeting them all was a blessing, definitely a blessing. We're minorities in the world, so if I can join an organization where we can all help each other grow, why not?
We hold ourselves to a standard, and with those people that I noted, such as Johnny Cochran and everything, we have to meet that standard or push higher. So I constantly have to push myself to be better, to be like them or better than them.
The NPHC played a vital role in uniting black students as they fought for equal rights and fair treatment under the law. And today the NPHC continues to bring young men and women together as they honor the history, traditions, and values of their Greek organization. On Point's Cameron Parrish has more on the story.
Thank you, Catherine. And I would like to welcome my guests on today's show. First, we have here Shaquille Clark, who is a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And then we have Ebony Hardiman, who is a member of the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And then also, lastly but not least, we have Terré Block, who is a member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So the first question I would like to ask each of you is, what is one thing you would want everyone to know about your organization? And we'll start with you.
Well, I want everyone to know that my organization is the best organization because we are, we pride ourselves on achieving in every field of human endeavor. So we try to be the best that we can be in everything that we do and try to achieve in every way possible, no matter what it is.
Okay, Ebony?
One thing I would like everyone to know about my organization is that we are very, very proud of our service to the community and of our reputation of being an action-oriented community service organization.
Terré?
One thing I want people to know about my organization is that at Psi Phi, we strive to uplift our community, and we also try to reach out to youth and to build them up into the men that we are.
Okay, good. And what traits are expected, and maybe this goes into each of your organizations as well, but what traits do most of your organizations look for in terms of being a member of the Divine Nine organization?
We look for a strong-minded, determined individual, someone who is very impactful, in a positive way throughout their community, someone who is a hard worker, whether it's not just in school, academically by achieving that GPA, but outside of the classroom, what are you doing for the community, We also look at how you are, as a person, will you be a good brother, what I'm saying? So it's a lot of positive traits that we look for in different people, we're choosing.
Ebony?
I definitely agree with Shaq, especially for my organization. We look at your community service, your academic career, how well you've done with that, but we also look for someone of very high moral character and someone who exhibits the characteristic of finer womanhood. So we really want to make sure that you are the type of person that will handle yourself as a lady when you're in public and make sure that you will reflect good on our organization, because at the end of the day, it is a business and we need to make sure that our brand as an organization is intact.
Terré?
I agree with it too, but for our organization, we more so look for those individuals who will be willing to make a big impact at their campus or the community, because we're always looking for people who are dedicated to making change.
Okay. And what prompted the start of the Divine Nine?
Well, I think that, back it was in the early 1900s, most of the Divine Nine was founded. So some in the late 1900s. But, Greek life was popular in college campuses, and African American students weren't allowed to get in due to racism and the other white Americans not wanting black people to join their organizations. So African Americans decided if we can't join it, we're going to start our own, and that's when the Divine Nine came about and became special. That was a way for us to bond with each other, to be with each other more, and to have our own secret rituals and something that we could call our own, since everything at the time including our freedom was being taken from us.
Right. And why are there only 9 of African American fraternities and sororities? Do you know that significance, perhaps? Anyone know?
Well, the National Panhellenic Council, which is the official name of our council, which it's been coined as the D9, but it's actually the National Panhellenic Council. It came about through 4 core organizations, and then the other 5 were added in later. And it was basically to have uniformity of thought and action amongst our organizations. So even though each organization has its own things that they do, their own principles, their own ideas of service, there is a general umbrella organization that we all fit under, that we all try to have a certain level of uniformity with. So these 9 organizations, and they basically came together to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are the kinds of things that we're going to have in our constitutions and things like that. So the 9 that came in were basically the 9 that decided, okay, this is what we're going to do as an organization. This is the umbrella organization that we are going to subscribe to.
And since the start of the Divine Nine, I know that it's nationally and worldwide, but let's just talk about the United States in general. What's the difference between the Divine Nine here on the West Coast and on the East Coast?
Well, I would say one of the major differences is the amount of members. I mean, the Divine Nine was founded, mostly on the East Coast. So at HBCUs, so there are, not all, but most were, and there's more members there. So, it's more like, when something is founded at some place, it's going to always be, like it's like the what do you call it? Like the starting ground for it. On the West Coast, we have the Divine Nine out here, but it's not as big because it's more diverse. It was more diverse on the West Coast, and on top of that as well, like we don't have any HBCUs on this side of the nation. So it's like, we get the black students who want to join the Divine Nine organizations, a little bit because it's mostly PWIs out here. You know what I'm saying?
Is there anything that people are doing to try to boost the membership levels out here on the West Coast?
Yeah, I would say that we're trying to be out more, throw more events, just be more, active, not just on social media, but in person on our campuses. Try to go out. We try to seek out other African Americans who are on campus to get them to join the organizations, and to spread the word to their friends. So, yeah.
To add to the point of why there are less out on the West Coast compared to the East Coast, at my campus at UCLA, I've noticed that there's a lot of first-generation college students, and when they're first generation, they don't have knowledge of fraternity or Greek life amongst the black community at UCLA. And then our community is pretty small. Like we just raised it to 4%, and prior years were much less than that. And if you think about even fraternity since the African American males were made up of a majority of athletes, and it's like more of a political stuff happened in prior years. The reason why athletes can't be involved politically on campus anymore. But that's our biggest problem, is not having the numbers.
Right. And what separates, the Divine Nine from other fraternities and sororities or Greek life here on this campus and worldwide? What's so different?
Well, one thing that I know, certainly for the Divine Nine organizations, is that we don't stop after you graduate from your undergraduate career in college. We have graduate chapters and alumni chapters which you can go into and be active in after you graduate. So that's one thing that separates us. And also another thing I think that separates us is our culture and our history and our community, because there is so much rich history that's associated with these organizations. There's always something new that you can be learning. There's always something more that you can be doing, especially on the state level, the regional level, the national level, the international level. With these organizations, there's just so much more to be discovered than just undergrad.
And Ebony, since you've just recently graduated and now you have joined the graduate chapter of Zeta Phi Beta sorority, can you kind of talk about a little bit about your experience as a graduate and the things that you've been involved in?
I can actually. So my experience was a little bit different in my organization only because I did join my last semester. So I joined and then I graduated. So it was like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do now? And I did end up going into my grad chapter, and it was so much different because you have these women who basically are established adults who have businesses and families and lives, and they're still doing the work of Zeta. So it was really eye-opening for me to see, okay, what is my life in this organization going to be like in 5, 10, 15 years? And I ended up actually getting a state position. I'm the state Z-Hope coordinator for the state of California, which is something that I am extremely proud of and something that I have to thank the prior members for paving the way for me to be able to do that.
And let's talk a little bit about strolling. How long does it take you all to learn how to stroll?
Depends on how much rhythm you have.
Yeah, for Omega Psi Phi, we call it hopping. We don't stroll. But yeah, I don't have rhythm. I can't dance. So, but we got brothers that can, and sometimes it comes like this. But some people have to work for it, and I have to work for it.
And who comes up with these moves? Is it a history thing? Like, did the original founders of the organization come up with it? Who's in charge of adding to that?
For Omega Psi Phi, hopping and marching, the founders didn't come up with it specifically, but it came from a tradition of from the military, from their marches, and we kind of like adapted them. And some of the marches or hops, they're just kind of like improvised. They'll take certain moves from different other routines and put them together to make something your own.
And how do each of you feel about other groups, other organizations, other Greek fraternities, sororities incorporating strolling within their organizations outside of the Divine Nine?
I mean, it just don't feel right just because that's something the Divine Nine does, it just doesn't sync, like it doesn't sit well with us, what I'm saying? Well, I can speak for myself, it doesn't sit well just because it's just something the Divine Nine is known for and what we do, so yeah.
So are you saying like it's a cultural appropriation?
I wouldn't, yeah, kinda. I feel like, okay, so, Divine Nine, we've been strolling since, we've been founded, or if not and for years, now. And so it's like when other Greek organizations start strolling, it's like, you kind of got that from us. So it's kind of like, we're taking our own thing, and that's why we started the Divine Nine, kind of to get our own thing. So it's like you're taking that from us as well, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, I guess you could say cultural appropriation, but,
What you have to understand about the tradition of strolling and stepping is that it came from an African tradition. A member of the Divine Nine who was from Africa brought the tradition over, and that's basically where it started with the D9. That's where it started. So it hasn't, not since we've been founded. We didn't start stepping and strolling, I believe, until the 90s. The 80s or 90s is when strolling really became popular. But you get, other organizations who aren't in the Divine Nine who see it, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. Like, that looks really cool and interesting. Let's do that. And it's not so much the fact that they decide to do it, because it's not like we can keep them from doing it. It's just the fact that there's a history behind it that they don't care to see or to acknowledge. They just pick it up because it looks cool, and they think it'll get their numbers, or it'll make waves, which it does usually. But it's just the fact that you don't know the history behind it. You just want it because it looks nice, which is what, for me, really just makes it kind of not okay. Because
I have friends in the Latino Greek Council at UCLA. My sister, she's a Sigma Lambda Gamma, and they do it also. I don't think it's wrong that they do it. I like seeing how they take our culture, how they maybe take some, they share, they kind of like make it their own. And so I think that it's an art that we created, but they're collaborating with us and creating something new, which is awesome.
The thing about organizations like Sigma Lambda Gamma and Sigma Lambda Beta is that they have a history with the D9. So they learn about that history, which is why they step and they stroll, because they have that connected relationship with us. But organizations that don't, and there are a lot of organizations that don't and still decide to do it, it's a bigger issue.
Now let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about Zeta Week. It is Zeta Week, and since you're here, I just want to ask you, what are some things going on this week, and what are you guys going to be doing?
So for our Zeta Week, we like to put on events that showcase the things that we like, but also what we think the community might benefit from. We had our Bag Lady Forum, which was basically how to deal with emotional baggage, how to let some of that go, how to create meaningful relationships with other people. We had our Passageways to Pleasure last night, which Shaq attended. And it was basically sexual education, but in the best possible way, because one of our sorors actually has a website where she sells sexual items, which honestly for me was really entertaining to see. Tonight we will have our informational, so basically how to become a Lady of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, what does it take, what do you need? And then tomorrow we'll be having our Black movie night, and we'll be showing Girls Trip.
And Shaq, last week was Kappa Week. Do you want to explain a little bit about what you all did last week?
Well, this week is Kappa Week as well as Zeta Week.
Excuse me.
But that's okay. So yeah, Monday we had a workshop in which one of our brothers came out to talk about capitalizing on your cash. And that turned out pretty well. We had some members of Zeta Phi Beta there. We had some members of Delta Sigma Theta come. Yesterday, we had Noopy Tuesday, so we were on campus in front of Sierra Hall, just strolling and just talking to the students that go here. Today, which is Wednesday, we're gonna have an etiquette workshop, so a workshop on how to dress, like how to, act in an interview, etc. And then tomorrow, there are a couple of other events that we're gonna go to. So we won't have anything at CSUN, but we do support other chapters. So our brothers at Beta Omega, which is USC, LMU, and Pepperdine, have a probate at USC, and then our brothers at Long Beach Epsilon Kappa are having a yard show. And then Friday is our party, which is our masquerade, which is our upscale party we've been doing, so yeah.
And you just mentioned like workshops and stuff that you have to groom people that are either in the fraternity or want to be a part of the fraternity. What are some things that people can take away from being a part of these organizations?
Well, I think, number one, when you join an organization and the D9, like, it's kind of, we all have the similar goal of community, bettering the community. So I think that people, when they get into the org or when they're around the org, what they can pick up from the org is just basically working on becoming a better you and a better citizen, you know? Like, just throughout life, you know, you gotta just, not just, you know, worry about yourself, but like worry about others as well, you know what I'm saying? Because we're kind of all for each other, you know what I'm saying? So just being the best person you can be and the best citizen you can be.
Ebony?
For me, being a part of this organization has really taught me how to prioritize, because I've had to learn how to balance, you know, school and work and also my organization, because if I don't work, Zeta doesn't work. We're a nonprofit organization, which means they need me to come to chapter meetings. They need me to, you know, do my job as a member of this organization and as a state chair. So it's been a learning experience for me how to, you know, get all of my ducks in a row so I can do what I need to do. But also it's been a really good learning experience for me in terms of networking. I've gotten multiple jobs thanks to the people that I've met in this organization, and I am really, really happy that I got the chance to be a part of it.
Terré?
The benefits that I think I've taken away so far are being immersed in brotherhood with those who care about your development as a leader, especially as a leader, because for our chapter, Lambda, we're citywide and we have 7 campuses. So at each individual campus, I'm at UCLA, I have to be the leader there, and I have to organize workshops, I have to organize outings with other Greek organizations, and it's kind of like, how you said, time management and priority. So that's how I'm taking away so far.
And one thing that I also do want to touch on just a little bit is a little bit about like the hazing process. I know other fraternities and sororities on campus, they do have their own version of hazing. What is hazing to each of you? And what does that mean for your organization?
Well, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated is a non-hazing organization. You know, we don't believe that someone should be subjected to hazing to join a fraternity. You know, I know that hazing is now like breaking down to so many different forms. Like, you know, it could be like you taking the test is considered hazing, for what I've have heard and whatnot. But yeah, we just, you know, as long as you are, you know, a good person and you just, you know, come support the events and get to know the brothers, that's pretty much, you know, your way in, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. And also to what's normally like the initiation process in terms of joining each of these groups? What types of things do you have to go through? Is there meetings you have to attend? Do you have to learn a certain amount about the culture that the particular organization is about? Kind of explain that.
So I know for Zeta, which again, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated is a non-hazing organization. For us, it's very important that you get to know us as people and as Zetas. When you come, like say you come to a tabling event, like meet the clubs or, you know, what have you, and you express interest and you say, I want to be a part of your sorority, we're like, okay, that's great. Here are some of our events. We actually want you to come to our events. We want you to come, we want you to participate. And if you're still interested at that point, it's like, oh, you know, maybe could, you know, I get your phone number, you know, maybe, you know, talk to you about, you know, some questions that I have about, you know, the organization. And we'll be like, yeah, sure, that's fine. And that's when you start to cultivate a relationship. Because when it comes time for us to decide, okay, are we gonna bring in new people? You know, who do we wanna bring in? We're gonna think of the person who texted us on our Founders Day, or, you know, texted us on Thanksgiving, or, you know, asked us how we were doing, just out of the blue. We want the person who actually took time out of their day to get to know us and make a relationship with us. So there's really nothing super, super special that you have to do to become a member of my organization, you just have to want to know us as people and not just, oh, I want to join because it's cool.
Right. And how do you plan, each of you, how do you plan on passing along your legacy to the next generation that comes along after you within your organizations?
I just plan to do work, continue putting together great events, continue to do community service. I feel like your actions speak for itself. People will see what you do. When the next generation decides to, if they want to join an organization, and specifically my organization, people will see, and obviously hear about the work that, you've done. As long as you're doing, the right thing and you're putting together events, successful events, people find out.
Ebony?
I would say instilling the same values and principles that the people who came before me instilled in me. So that would be, time management, finer womanhood, service to the community, service to yourself, because there's a lot of stress that goes into being a student and being, a member of an organization, having a family and things like that. First and foremost, you have to be able to take care of yourself. And I feel like a lot of people forget that. It's like, oh, I can get 2 hours of sleep or I can not eat. Like, at the same time, if something happens to you or if, you don't have the ability to go to class or you can't because you stayed up so late doing, whatever partying, then you're not going to be able to do the things you need to do to get your work done. And that's a lot of what we try to instill. Like, you have to take care of yourself.
I'll say the same thing as Shaquille, by doing work. Also, just when trying to build those bonds, because you want people to remember you or to remember the work you've done.
Thank you so much, Terré, and thank you all for being here today. Really enjoyed your company and what you guys had to say. It was really, really informative. And thank you so much to our audience for tuning in.
And thank you for having us. Yell to the news.
I've come up with a family emergency plan.
What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
Me too. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on social media at CSUN On Point. You can hear us at KCSN 88.5 FM on Sunday mornings at 5:30. You can watch us on Santa Clarita Valley Television on Sundays at 5 and on LA 36, 8:30 Friday mornings. For all of us here at On Point, I'm Catherine Molina.